go. And yes, Mike Kinsey is a much darker figure, especially as you mentioned, Marion, because as the dominating guru of this inner circle, he manipulated his people to do things they might not have done otherwise. For instance, John Milk, who is based somewhat on an original member of the inner circle, had his first sexual experience, this man you heard talking to you tonight, with Dr. Kinsey himself. His second sexual experience was with Mrs. Kinsey. And his third sexual experience was with Iris, the girlfriend in college who was to become his wife. And the wedding, by the way, this is all true to history, was delayed by 2 months because Kinsey insisted on having it in the garden of his house when all his irises were in bloom. You couldn't make this stuff up, folks. It's just too bizarre.
Wie hat dir der Milk gefallen? Was war das für ein Typ? Was ist das für ein Typ in deinen Augen?
Also, a big difference for me from the movie to the movie is that John Milk is a person that appears in the beginning to be a little bit very naive, and what you feel is that you feel a little bit smarter than he is in the beginning, and then you read further on, and well, as you come to page 110 or so, everything has changed, and you really say, "Oh my God, what are they doing? I'm never going to do that. I would never, or would I?" And this is the thing that really works very well, because John Milk is a guy who takes you by the hand and kind of pulls you into the story, and without noticing it yourself. This is a very good thing.
I want to ask you a question, Josef, which we haven't covered in our act so far. When you read the full book for the tape, here the audience is hearing John Milk as the naive young man fumbling around in class and fumbling with this date and so on. As you read it over a course of several days, and he progressed in age and experience, did you feel a change coming over you as you acted and became him?
Oh, yes, I did. Indeed, I did. Yes.
Did you get much darker with?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I had to, because I had to follow his traces. So yes, things changed completely, and actually, the good thing is that Kinsey is a very determined person. He is the way he is. He is sort of a fanatic, and he's a very monomaniac guy, and he's like totally convinced of what he does, and he doesn't look right nor left. But John Milk falls sort of victim to that also. So he's committing all these things himself, so he's not a victim anymore, but still he is. He has a wife, and as you can imagine, it's not everybody's cup of tea to swing around and, just go to bed with everyone, in any thinkable, imaginable combination of things. Thank you. And this is what the book is about, because there is also a lot of hurt, emotional hurt, and it is also a book about love, actually, and not only about sex. So Alfred Kinsey is not the principal character in the book, to me.
Yes. Yeah. And John Milk's life becomes very complicated because he loves Iris, his wife, and she is the one person who refuses to be part of Kinsey's inner circle. The other wives and the other men all participate sexually together. She does once, but withdraws from that because she doesn't want to be a pawn of this great leader, Kinsey. She sees through him. She sees through the fanaticism of devoting your life single-mindedly to one project and ignoring everything else. An example is this. Kinsey also interviewed children, by the way, and I have a scene in here which some people have found rather creepy, but in fact, from what I've learned of Kinsey, and what Bill Conton learned of him too, he was perfectly innocent with children. He wanted just to understand when people first begin to learn about sex. For instance, his technique was to sit face to face with you, and in a padded room where no sound could emerge and no one could hear you, and he would record your case history of what you knew sexually from your childhood through how old you were at that point. And he felt it would be good to go back to the source and ask children themselves, because people's memories might fail. And typically, he would begin by chatting with you about, of course, the most fascinating subject in the world, you and your sexual experience or lack of it. He hated smoking, but he would put out packs of cigarettes for his subject. He hated drinking, but he would put out booze for them, so he would get them comfortable and have them reveal to him what they revealed to no one else. And he would begin just by chatting. So where are you from? Do you have any brothers and sisters? What does your father do? Is he alive? You know, and etc. And then he would begin with questions of when you were very young, did you play more with boys or girls? When was the first time you discovered there was a difference between boys and girls? And it would just progress. He would always use this configuration of when. He presumed, he was totally non-judgmental. He presumed that everybody had done everything. So he would say, not, do you ever masturbate? Because you might be shy and you might say, no. He said, when did you first start to masturbate? And of course, some people would say, well, I never did. And he would just make a little notation, and that's part of his statistics. But he always presumed everything. So, you get 250 questions in, and he would say, when did you first have sex with a goat? And, most people would say, well, I haven't yet.
So did you ask yourself all those questions too? Fragt ihr, ob sich all diese Fragen auch gestellt hat?
And I think it would be interesting for young Josef to answer this too. Yes, obviously when you read the question, any questionnaire, you're immediately answering in your head. And it does bring you back to a whole nostalgic reminiscence of your life and painful episodes too.
I can imagine this it is a very grotesque situation, a very absurd situation. You are asking someone, when did you have sex with a goat? And he goes, oh, let me see, it's just 20 minutes ago. That's
Yeah, there is a scene in the book and it also based on a true incident, in which John Milk has to interview his first woman. He's still very young, he's only 22 or 23, and Kinsey is a fanatic, by the way. He must train this man perfectly, that every question is perfect, every response, etc. Kinsey drills him, and he's only allowed to interview men, young men, fraternity guys of his own age, who, of course, as we know about fraternity men, have a very limited sexual history. But one day, when they were traveling to get sex histories, and typically, by the way, Kinsey would give a lecture to an audience like this and plead to you for scientific knowledge and for all of you to come forward the following days and make an appointment, come to the hotel, and talk to him. So they were overbooked, and there was no choice but for John Milk to interview his first woman. Kinsey drilled him all night long, and finally John Milk is ready. The woman, however, proved to be very stylish, 5 or 8 years older than he, and extremely experienced in a way that embarrassed him. And this provides wonderful comedy for us readers, safe at home in our beds. And by the way, we are just now getting ready the paperback for this in the United States, coming out in September. And they have selected some quotes from the critics, as they always do for the front cover. My favorite is very brief and very telling. It says, should be read naked.